Hi, and welcome back to Designing with Reggie. This is episode 2. The first episode kind of gave you my backstory and how I became a designer and some of the things that led me back to being a designer. So I encourage you to go watch that video and learn a little bit more about who Reggie is, the founder of the brand LaVincent. Now, today, I'm going to show you some of the tools that you're going to need to help make your life a little easier. Some of these tools that I'm going to show you are not necessarily specific to fashion design. You can use some of these tools when you're sewing with a pattern. If you need to make something smaller or bigger and or fit just a tad bit better, you can use some of these tools to help you do that. So I'm going to start with the very first thing that you need to have, and those are a pair of shears. Now, these are a pair of shears. These are for paper only. Let me say that again. These are for paper only. I only use these to cut paper. Now, these are my electric shears. Let me turn them on so you can get a, oh, they're already on. You see that? What do I use these for? I use these for those hard to cut fabrics and your hands, your hands get real tired in your hand and you're like, oh gosh, can I get through cutting the sequin? Because you know as well as I know, cutting sequin is a beast, especially if you're cutting multiple layers of sequin and multiple layers of fabric. That's very difficult. I just bring out my handy electric scissors and it just zooms right through the fabric. I also have some pinking shears here. I asked my husband to buy me these shears. I think I may have used them maybe once or twice, but they're used to keep your fabric from fraying, especially when you're working with tweed. Oh my gosh, how tweed ravels. The minute you cut it, it starts to unravel. So rather than using my pinking shears, I use what we call a serger. And we're going to show you what that is a little later. Also, you're going to need your primary shears. I only use these shears right here. I only use these shears and I have 3 of them. These are called tailor's shears. I only use these shears to cut fabric. That's it. No paper, no sequin, uh, nothing really difficult to cut. I only use these to cut fine fabrics and fabrics that are easy to cut because these shears are extremely expensive and I have 3 pair and I can't um, afford to replace them every time they get dull. Which brings me to my next thing that I do not have to show you right now, but I can tell you about them. I asked my husband to buy me a sharpener. So he went online and he found this knife sharpener that can be used for shears as well. So I was skeptical about it because, those things never work. When you buy your electric kitchen knives that sharpen your knives, and your knives they're never quite as sharp as they were when you first bought them. Well, I can tell you the tool that he bought me to sharpen my shears. I make a pass through maybe once or twice, and these shears are just like the day I bought them. Also, you're going to need your measuring tape. You're going to need Sharpies, and we'll go over as we work through this series. You're going to find out what you need these things for. You're going to need your headphones. Why do you need headphones? Do you have children? Well, there's your answer. Also, let me introduce you to my assistant. This is Mini-Me, and you'll see quite a bit of him when I need to show you what I'm doing. You'll see quite a bit of him. Yeah, we kind of look alike, don't we? Yeah, that's my Mini-Me. So you'll see quite a bit of him. So I'm going to keep going. This is a button placer. Spacer. Sorry, I said placer. This is a button spacer. So if you're like me and lining up a button all the way down, it'll work. And then you go put the buttonholes in and your shirt look like this because you put the button down too low or the buttonhole up too high, and you go, oh crap, I got to start all over on this garment. That is the worst thing in the world. So I found this button spacer where you can space your buttons and know exactly where to space the buttons and the buttonholes. If you're a man, you use, don't sue me because I can't remember, this side for your buttons, this side for your buttonholes. Flip it over for the women, buttons, buttonholes. See, really easy, wonderful tool to have. Also, you're going to need a yardstick for those long lines that you need to make sure, especially when you're uh, drawing on the center front and the center back, you're definitely going to need these rulers. So since we're on rulers, let's continue to talk about rulers. This is a hip curve ruler. Now, it's exactly what it says. It's a hip curve ruler. This is the waist, and this is the hip. And then it curves, 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 and then it gets straight and it goes straight down. So it's supposed to mimic, let me stand so you can see. It's supposed to mimic the curve of your body. See right here, for women, this curves. You have a curve here, and that's what this is for. It's to uh, give you that curve when you're truing your garment or your pattern. So when we get to the truing section, you'll know what that is. Also, I have this curved ruler. This is for armholes, neck holes, front neck, and back neck. And it's also for your side seams. It's for your side seams as well to help. See, looks like I don't even know what I'm doing, doesn't it? But no, that's for their side seam. Okay? This is basically the same thing, but it's just longer. And you can also use this as a hip curve ruler. So we're done with our rulers. I love this little gadget. Love this little gadget. When I tell you what this is, you're going to fall out. When you get through sewing your buttonholes, all you have to do is grab this tool and press the knife down into the button hole and release it, and the buttonhole is done. So now you don't have to use your seam rippers to cut your buttonhole and make the mistake of going past the buttonhole. How many of you done that? When you use that seam ripper and you just go, I gotta make this whole garment again because I just cut the buttonhole and it's gonna ravel. So this prevents that from happening. This is quilting chalk, and it's white, and I use it sometimes when I'm doing improvisational draping. I'll use this to mark the fabric, and it's really good because see, look, can you see that? Let me lean back. See, and guess what? It's gone. So now moving on, you're going to need a rotary tool, just like this. It must be identical to this. Don't get the ones where you have to put the tracing paper underneath and then the fabric and then you use the plastic ones. Don't get those. Get this one because when we get to sewing, I'm going to show you why you need this one instead of the plastic ones that don't have the spikes on it. And another tool or gadget, I'm going to sit down because you know I'm old. So I'm going to sit down and talk to you some more. This little gadget is so cool. It looks like a hole punch. Well, basically, I guess you could call it a notch puncher. Yeah, a notch puncher. That's what we're going to call it. You know what this is for? This serves dual purposes. This serves notches. You know, when you're designing and you have your pattern, and all you do is grab this and squeeze, and it gives you your notch. So it helps you line up your notches along your seam. Because when you're making your own pattern, you don't have notches like you do in a pre-made pattern. So you have to make your own notches. And this little cute thing does that for you. It makes your notches. And also, you know, when you're going around a curve and you have to get the scissors and snip around the curve, you can use that. You can use this with that. You can snip like this and go around the curve instead of using your scissors or your shears. You can use this to clip around the curve, and it makes those curves beautiful. And the reason this is better than clipping it is because it clips fabric out. Let me say that again. It clips fabric out and it leaves a tiny line. So when you fold it and it curves, it makes it easier to curve around rather than the scissors. You're just cutting and the fabric that you cut kind of overlays on top of each other. This prevents that. So when you curve it, it makes a beautiful curve because you have cut out portions of that fabric around the curve. Now, let me get some more tools. Definitely going to need some Sharpies. Any color Sharpie, does not matter. You need your Sharpies. And a pencil. You're going to need your sewing kit, your hand sewing kit. Now, I'm going to show you some things. This is my hand sewing kit. I've got all my stuff in here. I hated using the thimble. Hated using the thimble. But I made a prom dress for a girl for prom. And after the first 3 feathers I sewed on the bottom of that dress, I said, I put a thimble on every finger. I put a thimble on even my thumbs. I put a thimble on them. After the third feather, because I had probably over 1,000 feathers I had to sew on, and my hands were getting ugly and all beat up and gnarly. And I was like, I did. I put a thimble on every finger, and it took me forever to sew those on. So here's my little stash of hand sewing things. I asked him. Let me find that needle. Here it is. I asked him. I'm going to see if you can see it. You see that with the gold top? I asked Wesley to buy me those scissors. The reason for it is I'm not good on the internet. I'm not good at ordering stuff. That's why I ask him to order everything. So don't say, why do you keep asking him? So this is supposed to be the magic needle. All you have to do is grab that and pull, pull the needle, pull the thread through like that, and it's threaded. The only problem is when you're sewing, you see that? It came apart. And then you have to try to figure out, okay, let me see if I can get that again. And you're in the middle of sewing and the thread pops out. It's a novel and a really good idea if it worked. But guess what? It don't even work because there's nothing to hold the thread. There's nothing to hold the thread in place to keep it from slipping out. So that was useless. Okay, I'm looking. Also, if you are designing, you're going to need your stylized tape. Now, what this tape does, if you have a design in mind and you have a professional dress form that has a collapsible shoulders, and that's perfect. You use this tape to tape out the silhouette or the style lines of your garment. So you use the tape to tape how you want your garment to look. And then when you begin to drape, which we'll get to, this will help you with your style lines, which is amazing. Also, you need some colored pencils. And many of you may not know what this is, but this is a croquis. Let me say that again. This is a croquis. And what a croquis is, it's basically just people. It's just people, as you can see, over and over and over and over again. But here's the interesting thing. You see this, you can't see it. You can't see it unless you get really, really close. And these are non-transferable, meaning that you cannot make copies of these. If you try to make a copy of this, the copy comes out blank. And the reason for that is if you buy a book of croquis or one picture, you can print them and print them and print them, and the people who are making the croquis aren't making any money because you're reprinting croquis. So let's be mindful of people who are out there working and trying to make a living, and rather than, in my opinion, I call it cheating. But you buy. Can I have one of your croquis? And then you go home, and this person goes and prints 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 all the croquis that they need. Well, that's not fair because you're taking money out of somebody else's mouth. But always get your croquis, and basically they're really fun. And the reason why I have them is because I'll see or I'll have an inspiration and I need to jot it down real quick. So I'll grab my Pro Key and I'll jot it down right quick and then I'll come back to it and use my colored pencils to kind of give it some shape and some shading to see exactly what I want it to look like. Now I'm going to show you one more instrument that will make your life heaven. My daughter got married about 3 years ago, Wesley. 3.5, about 2 years ago. So she asked me to make her dress, and I said, "Of course, girl. You know I got you. I got you, and I'm ready to go. Let's go." So I made her wedding dress, and I had to cut out all of that lace, all of those appliques by hand. And it took forever cutting around and in. I mean, it was very intricate. So I went to Wesley again and I said, "Can you find this tool?" And he says, I looked, and I think he looked for a good 2 weeks and he couldn't find it. And then all of a sudden, he jumps up because his office is right next to my atelier. So he jumps up and he runs in here and goes to my supplies and pulls out a gadget and he says, "Let me try something." And he was like, "We had it the whole time." And I was like, "What do you mean?" So he bought this tool probably 2 years ago, and he got it, and this is it. This is it. And what this does is all you have to do, you see that tip? You plug it into the wall, the socket, and all you have to do is go around the lace just that quick, just like that, and you're done. It cuts off, I guarantee you, 90% of your time. It literally cuts the appliques out as you go around.
It's a soldering iron.
Yeah, a soldering iron. That's what it is. Because I saw it on a video and I was like, I've got to have that. But he says it's a soldering iron, and all you have to do is just go around the lace, and you can get close to the edges, and it won't burn the edges. It will only burn the tool underneath, not the edges of the lace or applique you're trying to use. I mean, just go right around. I'm like, get you one of these if you work with lace. So, oh, also, when you're working, get you one of these. This is a cell phone holder. And the reason for that is I have a daughter who has kids, and sometimes she calls me during the day, and I can actually see her. I can see who's calling me, or my husband may call me, or the school may call me for the kids, and I just sit it right there while I'm working, and it will flash up and I'll see it. So let's move around. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Some days when you get to the point to where you don't feel yourself, always have a poster or collage of your grandchildren above you. So when you get to those spots where you're like, I always like to look up and see my little chunka. Her name's Julia Slavon Webb, named after my mother. And my favorite picture is this one. And this one always makes me happy. So I look up at this picture and this picture, and it always brings me out of that funk that I'm in. So come around this way. And I want to show you, this is not a must. This is not a must, but the steam press is great for setting pleats. It is wonderful for setting pleats. I mean, this thing has saved my life because I was making a kilt and I had to pin those kilts, pin those pleats down, and this helped. This helped 100%. I love this. And of course, right here I have my horsehair. This is not real horsehair, that's just the name of it. I have my different colors of horsehair, got some embellished feathers there. But let's move on around and let me show you my sergers. So this serger is a Husqvarna Viking, and Husqvarna Viking is not, let me say that again, they are not sponsoring this video. So this is a 5-thread serger. Yes, it's a 5-thread serger, but I only use the 4-thread. And it's a Husky Lock S25. They don't make this brand anymore. They make a smaller brand that's about this big, and it's an air threader. So you don't have to go through, you know, all of this inside, threading it in and out and in and out. Yes, I didn't clean it before I made the video, so excuse me. And you don't have to use your tweezers because it air threads, but you still have to thread the needles. And so I'm like, why would I trade it in and I still got to thread the needles? And I have a second one in case one needs to be serviced. I always have one on hand. Over here, I've got some more supplies. I've got my hardware uh, uh, drawer. I've got my embellishments drawer, my buttons. Have my buttons. I have some over here. I've got some bias tape there and there. I've got some appliques here. Love that beautiful applique. So I got all my appliques there, and I've got my buttons here, and I also have buttons over here. I have my styling tape, my stylizing tape right here, in case I want to drape in different colors. I also have my zipper wall with the different size zippers and the different size zippers and the different colors of the zippers. And they're all arranged according to size and color. Now this tool right here these are for snaps. Like if you want to put snaps on something, these tools right here help you put these snaps on jeans or jackets or a pair of pants or shirt. I don't use this often, but it's a good resource to have. Now, working my way around, this is my workhorse. I bought this, well, my husband bought this. He bought this 3 years ago when I started designing. After I was using my other transportable machines, he bought me this, and this is my workhorse. This only does straight stitches. It doesn't do anything else but straight stitches. But the beauty of this machine is that it can puncture sequin without breaking the needle. When I found that out, I thought it was like Christmas Day all over again. It punches through sequin. Can you believe it? Amazing. So I love my Juki. And behind me, I have my threads. You must have a lot of colors, different color threads. I'm going to pull this out so you can see. I have my threads readily available. where I can pick them out when I need them, and my bobbins over there, and I can readily, pull them out when I need them. Now, over here on this side, over here on this side, I've got my two machines. They're also Husqvarna Viking. This is the 50 and this is the 50. I brought this one first and then I brought this one. This one is set up for embroidery only. And this one is set up for buttonholes, buttons, specialty stitches, zigzag stitches, any kind of stitches that I want that the Juki cannot do. This does that for me. Okay? Now, another thing, you need to have an assortment of threads. You must have an assortment of threads. And I forgot something. You also need an assortment of bias tapes because these tapes have saved my life. I can't tell you how many times they've saved my life. And over here is my very first dress form. Yes, it's a size 6. And you know it's a size 6 because it says it right there. And it also says it right there. Now, it also says collapsible shoulders. You're probably going, what does collapsible shoulders do? Well, it's that. And it's supposed to mimic a model putting clothes on like this. You know how you slip things over your head and put your fingers in? That's what it's supposed to mimic, is that. And let's talk briefly about this mannequin. This mannequin is divided up in the front. It's divided up into 4 quadrants. It's divided up in the right side, no, right center front, right side front, left center front, left side front. See, I get confused even now. Now, these seams right here that divides them, those are called the princess seams. And they start at the shoulder and they go all the way down to the end of the form. These are the princess seams. And this is your center seam. This is your side seam. And you can look at the back so you know I'm telling you the truth. Here's your center seam. That divides the center back from the left. It divides the left and right center back. And you have your side back here and your side back there. So that's the basics of the form. Now, I was watching an episode. I love this fabric and it's gorgeous. I was watching an episode of Project Runway. And a lady asked Michael Kors, she said, I called you and I asked you, how do I not get that homemade look in my garments? And he said, an iron, darling. Really? Iron makes that big a difference? So I was like, I finished a pair of pants, the slacks for lady, and I was like, ew, these don't look right. So I remembered that statement. And I came over here. Once again, I asked Wesley to buy me an industrial iron. So he did, and he brought me this. So you turn the iron on and it heats up, and down below is a lever that you step on. That's that right there, you step on it, and as you iron, you step on it, and it sucks the heat down through the layers of the garment as you are ironing with your foot pressed on that pedal. And you would be surprised. When I got through, it looked like those pants had been bought in a store. So he is right. Press iron as you go. So that's all I have for you right now. I hope you enjoyed this second installment. In the next installment, we're going to get started. And I'm going to show you how to construct a garden. Happy designing.